This is a video about how I might make a video later today or tomorrow or sometime in the near future. I hope you guys are doing well. It's been since July 13th, so about 2 months. That's the longest stretch in a while. Maybe the longest stretch ever since I've made videos. But it's for a reason. Like I said, I haven't really been following the organized chaos of the times. Whether it's, all the crap with Russia or whatever, Middle East and ISIS. Now it seems to be ISIS at the forefront and Russia. Uh, it's like why the hell should we care? Why can't we just move on with our lives here in the United States or wherever, uh, and focus on problems here in our country, in our state, in our city, in our town, whatever, in our families, in ourselves. And that's kind of what I've been doing, trying to just focus on my own problems, because we all have problems to different degrees. So, and it's better. It's better for us to by not supporting it, you know. Because in the long run, it's like, what are we going to do about it? Not saying that there's nothing that we can do, but these guys are nuts, and they're gonna continue to play this game that can result in like a nuclear holocaust. Uh, but whatever the point is whether it's Israeli expansion or whatever, we're just kind of observing and spectators, and we're sitting in the stands. So when you hear the crap about oh, I think it's now 65% of Americans support airstrikes. They support Obama carrying out airstrikes in Iraq, and now they're talking about in Syria. But they're not in it for the long haul. So, in this democratic system here that we have, or we don't really have in the United States, the people have spoken, and they said Obama's weak on terrorism, so we support these strikes. We don't want these this ISIS group that is a fabrication of Western interests and not of the people, of corporations, and of mostly Israel. We don't want them actually getting loose and bringing down Israel and destroying it, because then, well, they might come and get us. That's not really how they think. Of course, I'm being sarcastic. You guys know that. But that's basically what it is. I mean, what we're seeing here is these, I would say, puppet governments. I know there's people that disagree with me on that, but basically, these surrounding countries, whether it's Iran, to a certain degree Pakistan, but I don't think they'd be allowed to have friggin' nuclear weapons or anything like that unless they were in their pockets, or at least the globalist pockets. I'm not sure if it's Western, Eastern faction, whatever, but Iran, I'm sure they have nuclear weapons, and recently, basically the U.S. and the European Israelis, they've all basically said, okay, whatever, we're not gonna talk about nuclear weapons anymore. Just, we'll free up some of your sanctions, and that way we can get some of that money flowing back into our coffers, and we can carry out this Israeli expansion or whatever it is, this um, global type of a system that they're pushing for. And we won't really talk about that. But and then in Syria again, they have the chemical weapons. Like I said, that was totally, the minute that they did that, to me, show that Syria was either in their pockets from the beginning, or they had lied down. But then I kind of realized, a few months back, that actually this ISIS group, yes, they may be a fabrication or creation, kind of like Al Qaeda. They're like Al Qaeda, which we all know. what that is. They're like proxy armies. They're like mercenaries. They can't be linked back to the actual supporter, which are corporations and their Western governments. And they're getting not a little out of control, but they're doing exactly what they were created to do. Not so much created to do, but what they've been allowed to do, which is pose a threat to Israel and thus U.S. interest and EU interest, so then they can go on the offensive without looking like what they are, which is invaders or conquerors or aggressive. So they're fulfilling their purpose, and we saw that with Iran when they were getting close. They were getting over, I think it was the Euphrates or Tigris, not sure, but you know what I'm talking about. When they were getting an eastern part of Iraq, that's when Iran said, "Okay, let's start working together." You know, with the U.S. We're talking to Secretary Kerry about it. Let's do something about this, because when we look at the maps of the Israeli expansion, it got cut off at a certain point right along that river, and they were going over that. So Iran had their own little sovereign type interest in this whole plan of Israeli expansion state to not let it go too far. So then, they lose, that power structure goes down. Same with Saudi Arabia. They've definitely been playing the game. Again, you've seen them down there, talking about Kerry going around right now with a coalition going to Saudi Arabia and Egypt and Iraq and all these places, mustering up support. And all of these people, I believe, are just basically their assets. These governments, these regimes, it started with, maybe it didn't start, but with Saddam Hussein in Iraq. They were done with him, they used him, and they started with destroying that country and changing that regime, creating chaos, which is what we have, and that's exactly what the purpose was all those governments, believe it or not, were there to protect Israel from possibly, I don't know, like I said, like ISIL or ISIS, whoever they're getting their funding from, these people believe in destroying Israel. So if they were to get enough traction and enough momentum, they might be able to carry it out. So these public governments, these dictatorships, were probably there to prevent that, and along with all kinds of other stuff, financial interests with oil and energy and stuff. And but anyways, I'm kind of going on and on and on here, and I'm kind of getting into the video into the content that I was going to cover in another video, which I guess is good, which is just kind of nice. So I hope I'm not boring you, but I guess to get to the point, these guys are no longer needed, and now they're destroying their assets, including ISIS, or could have been Al-Qaeda. I mean, this could be the same group, this Al-Qaeda, ISIS, ISIL. On all the mainstream Western articles, I noticed today that they're actually just calling it IS, or is. I thought maybe that was a typo, but I saw it again, so they're just calling it IS, or is. It is what it is, right? Or I'm sure there's some kind of, I've already went through the possible sub-meanings or symbolic meanings of what that would be, I already talked about that before with ISIS and going into that. You can check that out in another video, but what do you think, This, what would that state? What would that represent? I mean, now they're just calling it the Islamic State, the Islamist. So this is a very kind of Zionist, Christian Judeo-Christian, as they call it, a front with the issue of Russia, kind of this a huge wild card going on. Got this article here. Senior Israeli Arab leader who works basically for an umbrella organization for Arabs says, or accused, the Zionists in Israel and the U.S. of secretly creating the so-called Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, also dubbed ISIL. They created this group to sow discord in the Arab world, i.e. create chaos, which we've always talked about in these videos. It says the Israeli Shin Bet and the U.S. are the ones who invented ISIS, or they're calling it IS, in order to create new divisions in the Arab world and the region, which will serve them. The question is, who provides ISIS with weapons? Who stands behind them financially? The answer is clear. The U.S. supports ISIS in order to ease its takeover of the region. And what do we know? We know that that the U.S. was funneling weapons to they say the moderate rebels, which they're, from all these different articles and stuff, there actually were like these moderate type of rebels that did exist. And then there was more hardcore ones, and then there was these ISIS, Al-Qaeda group. And the U.S. knew that they were getting these weapons, all these weapons. So, I mean, all these, where the hell did these guys get all these weapons? Most likely they got them straight from the U.S. So, in fact, with Syria, I've seen pictures of them sitting down with dignitaries, Western dignitaries, the Secretary of States and stuff, maybe Clinton. But two people, right? Two people that I've talked to in the last 10 years, one of them, interesting, I never knew what it meant, but said that when he was over in supposedly Iraq, he wasn't actually in Iraq, he was over in Syria, in the mountains of Syria, back in 2004 or 5, building trenches and putting metal grates over them. For what? Metal? Were they weapons caches? What the hell was he doing there? He didn't even know what he was doing. As a combat engineer. Another guy just recently said that the U.S. was selling tanks. I don't know, Abrams tanks or whatever it was, out of Lima, Ohio, whatever tanks they make, were selling tanks to Syria, the Syrian regime, the big bad regime. So the U.S. was funneling weapons to these moderates to get a regime change. We've gone that and beat that dead horse, right? They wanted Assad out of there, right? And that's what we're talking about, getting rid of assets. These weapons fell in the hand of, quote, extremists or Al-Qaeda or this ISIS. They've taken over towns, cities and stuff, created chaos in their area and on Israel's doorstep. It's obvious that Assad cannot contain this, and that's why they have to step in with airstrikes. You have Syria, and Assad, who's trying to hold on to his newly, quote, elected position here in Syria. Just like all these, I would imagine, governments that are sanctioned by the West are doing. But they're saying no, unwanted help. So now they want to work, Syria wants to work with the U.S., but they don't want them just going in there and blowing shit up without their permission. Unwanted help. Syria's plea to assist ISIS fight. Their helping is basically them going to the Syrian government and asking them where they're going to strike, when they're going to strike. But they're saying, no, it's not. We don't really want your help. We don't need it. We're just going to go ahead and blow shit up whenever we want to. We don't need it. Your permission. You work for us. And like we talked about, this group was made by the U.S., but now they're at war with them. They're at war with whatever that may be. This Obama's rocking, looks like nice, 3 horns right there. But first they fund them and create them. Now they want to destroy them. They're going to be at war with them. So does it sound familiar? The same old thing? Maybe IS means independent states are at war with independent states. Or individual souls. Maybe I'm looking too far into it. But if you're going to go and bomb the shit out of people, innocent civilians, you don't want permission to do it. You got to be fighting a common enemy.